The hot side is all set now. If everyone wants to grab a plate, then we'll get started. Specific time and training there, though, right?
No.
But John, you don't have any assignments, right?
Yeah. That's like
Check. They're both really good.
mm-hmm.
Oh, no, it's not. Great. So I guess everyone has their food. So good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I think I know most of you, but my name is Erica, and I'm the mobilization manager at the Black AIDS Institute. This is Rebecca, and I'm the training manager at the Black AIDS Institute. And so if you saw in your, we're going to go ahead and get started. And first, I'd like to just say that we're excited to be here. We're excited to be here in Durban, and we're very thankful for all of you for rising so early and joining us for this breakfast update. So this is for the first breakfast update in a series that we'll be doing. So every day before the conference, please come back and join us. We'll have breakfast and kind of review the sessions that are outlined in our roadmap, along with some other pressing thematic items. But we just wanted to divert today a little bit from the agenda. So I don't know if anyone saw the agenda that we previously sent, but we're actually going to be diverting slightly from that first update agenda, because there have been some things that have come to light in the conference, and we wanted to take time to recognize those. So just briefly before we dig into all of that, we wanted to mention the plenary yesterday. I'm sure that all of you or most of you were able to join, but just to recap and kind of, we've had the night to be able to sleep on it and kind of synthesize some of the information. And Rebecca and I discussed this morning, we think there were two really major themes that kind of came out of the plenary. So the first theme seemed to really be, why aren't we there yet? There was kind of a somber tone to the plenary in general, and there was a lot of questioning around why aren't we there yet, and let's not be complacent in what we're doing because we aren't there yet. And then the second theme that we really identified was a social justice or inclusion theme. All of the speakers, I think, really made an effort to recognize the different groups that are affected. There were a lot of people that actually mentioned race specifically. We, as the Institute, are very excited about and happy that was acknowledged, but also kind of building a solidarity between groups that are affected by the epidemic. So those are the themes as we saw it. Rebecca's just going to review quickly the speakers, and then we'll get your feedback on those themes. Thanks, Sarah. 1 second. So the conference actually opened up with, Quaker Mandela, who is Nelson Mandela's grandson, and kind of putting into context the conference starting on Nelson Mandela's birthday, which is, I think, has been made into international holiday and International Day of Service. And so it was really powerful talking about kind of the legacy of having Nelson Mandela, the thoughts around how he served, and thinking about like 16 years ago when he was kind of introducing the plenary of AIDS 2000 here in Durban as well. So after Kwaku, Charlize Theron came on, and so kind of to echo Erica, there was a somber tone, and I think Charlize kind of started it. I think she did an amazing job talking about why aren't we there yet, and she had a very serious tone to her talk. And she talked about specifically that she thinks that one reason that we're not there yet, the main reason that we're not there yet, is because we value certain lives over others. And I think that really stuck with me because we are using this theme this week of Black Lives Matter, and it's kind of what we've been using as part of our slogan and part of our work throughout the past few years, or past year really, to really think about the context of, specifically in the United States, of what's happening around police brutality, and thinking about why that's important in the context of HIV. But also, when you're thinking about it globally, we have to think about how Black Lives Matter, being that HIV impacts Black people in the world more than anyone else. And so Charlize talked about how we value men over women, that we value straight people over gay people, and that we value, white skin over black skin. And in order for us to actually end HIV, to end AIDS, we have to, I think she says, in this quote here on the screen, if we are going to end AIDS, we must cure the disease in our minds and in our hearts first. And so she's specifically talking about curing the racism, curing the sexism,
curing the homophobia that folks have in their hearts, because HIV is a really intersectional disease that kind of brings all of these different aspects of our lives together. And I thought her opening message was extremely powerful, especially to kind of kick off what we deem really important information regarding Black lives through this conference. I think that's really powerful. And sorry for this picture, is really dark. You know, the other pictures were professional. This was from me. So we had, I think I'm going a little bit out of order here, but we had both of the conference co-chairs spoke yesterday. So Professor Olive Shoshana talked really about the theme of the conference. And so she talked about access, equity, rights now, and saying that this year's theme is really important because it is a demand from our community, saying that we need to really focus on, like Erica mentioned, human rights. And so again, another part that stuck out to me with her was talking about kind of the global impact HIV has on Black people. And I tried to catch the quote in the subtitles here, but it didn't quite work. But she basically said, across the globe, Black people bear the burden of HIV, and over 50% of the people who are impacted or infected with HIV around the world are Black. And so thinking about that in the context of our theme for this week, Black Lives Matter, is really important. And of course, she also talked about how South Africa has the highest number of people living with HIV in the world, and thinking about Durban, the center of this most highly impacted province, and thinking about what that means, how important it is that we're gathering here for this conference. So we also had her surprise talk, and I'm gonna skip through that because I think it's more powerful than reading words. He got up there and talked about how important it is for us to kind of support each other's movements. So Chris is a gay man, and he mentioned that one is the first time that a woman from Africa has been co-chair. I actually did not know that, so that's really exciting. But then when they got up there and talked together, Chris made it a point to say that it's really important that the LGBT community needs to support Black women kind of in their same struggle against HIV. And so when we're thinking about access and equity rights, it is important that the different key populations are working together and not competing for certain resources. And along that same lines, Chris also talked about the dwindling funding that we're experiencing in the field. And so specifically, a number of the speakers yesterday mentioned the Global Fund and how important it is for the Global Fund to be funded. For the Global Fund to be fully funded if we're serious about ending the epidemic. And then we also had a number of speakers. This is Sani with the Treatment Action Campaign. And she talked about how important it is to have a sense of urgency in this fight for this week specifically. And so the quote that they used, that they highlighted for the conference was that when your house is on fire, you don't ask calmly for help. You scream and you shout. And that's what we need to be doing this week. And that's what we need to be doing as we move forward. And so there was a number of other speakers, and I thought I had some more quotes on here. But we also, I really wanted to quickly mention
and I forgot to mention at the beginning, we are also live streaming and recording all of the breakfast updates. So, and they kind of, like I said, we'll be doing and reviewing what had happened the day previously for those that are joining us via. So we just wanted to open it up now for any reflections or comments that you had on what you heard yesterday, or maybe if you missed it, any of what we just kind of gave the overview of.
The one thing that took out to me was Charlie Theron, of course, but I appreciate the fact that she used her easy and her approach. There were two white people, because when you're in white spaces, a lot of people hear from one another to be able to make change. So it was just very helpful to see her take that stand is something that I really didn't expect.
I didn't expect it at all. I was very, very pleasantly surprised. And actually shocked because this is only my second International AIDS conference. And so usually the last time I experienced kind of the plan, they were less somber. So I was expecting a lot more talking about progress. But I appreciate the fact that they're talking about, why aren't we there yet? And these are a number of things that we have to do to get to the end of AIDS in 2030. So I totally agree.
Any other thoughts or comments?
I want to second the fact that Charlize, she nailed it. She made the conference in my eyes as far as the open preliminary session. I also thrilled with the slogan SS Equity. That stood out and resonated so much to me that, if people really got that and listen at equity, we don't want equality, equity, it will make some changes, or some changes can begin to be talked about or someone initiated. So I like that slogan, SS Equity.
So are there other comments?
Just a quick thing, I thought Charlie set a good song tone. Pretty much everything that you said. Just one thing, with the quote where you stood up and it was something I'm thinking about more, we need to cure racism and sexism in our hearts and minds. I think it's really profound, but I also just think it does miss a little bit of some of the ways in which racism and sexism are coming through. Obviously through institutions, ways that are very comfort, also through implicit violence. And so obviously she's not an expert. Those are things that we need to be thinking about as well.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I had to add, when she would bring up those different points, and kind of even when those points were talked about from other folks as well, I noticed how the crowd was responding. So when we talked about racism, everybody was rousing applause and stuff. When we talked about homophobia, it'd be like one clap. And that, I just thought it was interesting, and depending on what people were connecting to in terms of what they thought was the problem, it would either be a louder applause or a softer applause. I thought that was interesting.
I just wonder whether you will be able to capture what the Western said. The fact that coming from the vision, the commitment that South Africa has made in dealing with AIDS from where it was 16, 15 years ago, and also the fact that he was able to balance that with the need not to be complacent.
I would agree. I thought the Vice President's remarks were absolutely magnificent. As hearing the head of state not only recognize all the other African heads of states, current and past, with their commitment as we make in this world today with the underfunding for the Global Fund, the real effort is to ensure that each domestic government in Africa is actually stepping up by doing their part to provide financial support for HLPAs. He is reaching out to all the previous and current presidents of the other African nations. It's a very strong statement. And the second strong statement was that he actually said the words sex workers as a head of state from the free. And the response from the sex worker community was shockingly affirmative. He was very careful to only say sex workers should have access to prevention, treatment, and care. Not that they should go on sex work. So even being political, he was still being very political. But his speech was
Did you notice every time anybody said sex work?
Yeah.
That was fun. Great. Well, thank you so much for your comments. I think we're going to transition a little bit now to get to the main of why we really wanted to have this breakfast update in particular, and why we really are excited to be here with you, and that's to talk a little bit about Black Lives Matter and that movement in the context of this conference. So before I turn it over to Phil, we'd just like to find out from you, just as a little warm up to the topic, when you hear Black Lives Matter, what does that mean to you?
To me, it means that Black lives are not disposable. That we do, we are human beings, and are from the children all the way up to adults. We have a huge impact, on the world, and our lives matter. It matters to us. It matters to our generations after us. We just work too hard to still be like it is today.
It's a declaration of dignity. I remember in like the 60s, well, I don't remember because I wasn't there. But like, when James Brown came up with I'm Black and I'm Proud, the song, whatever, I mean, that kind of led to a sense of not just euphoria, but just a change of the narrative. So whereas they did not matter, I mean, now there's a sense of pride, connection to it. This kind of a reauthoring the narrative.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts? Well, definitely keep those thoughts, even if you're just having thoughts internally in mind, bear those in mind as we move into the next discussion. Phil, our founder, president, and CEO, will come and talk a little bit more about Black Lives Matter in the context of the Institute and this.
Well, I want to thank Rebecca and Erica for opening us this morning and leading this delegation this entire week and the remarkable job that they're doing. I give them my hand. And I'm really thrilled that all of you are here this morning. This is an ambitious undertaking, starting every morning at 7 o'clock. It is really important to be serious about the work that we're doing. The concept of Black Lives Matter is something that the Black AIDS Institute has embraced for a while now. I would argue that we've embraced that concept since 1999 when we started. That's the whole reason why we exist. This week, I think it has a particular resonance, the fact that this conference is in Africa, that is in South Africa, that is in Durban and KwaZulu-Natal, arguably the epicenter of the African epidemic. It's a reminder that while it is appropriate for us to acknowledge all of the successes and all of the advances we've made over those nearly 35 years of the epidemic, and particularly in the last 15 years since the conference was here last in Durban, we are not at the end yet. The epidemic is not over, and it won't be over until everyone has unfettered access, that new infections are rare, and that includes Black people, whether they live here on the continent of Africa, or whether they live anywhere else in the United States. We are in very, very interesting times across the globe, particularly for those of us who are living in the United States on this particular issue around Black Lives Matter. One of the things that I think is important and is challenging, it's challenging here this week and it's challenging when we work in the United States, why proclaim that Black lives matter? Don't all lives matter? And without a doubt, all lives do matter. But us claiming that Black lives matter, there is no statement in that, no comment, no suggestion that any other lives don't matter. And that is kind of an interesting notion, that it is a declarative statement, and the response is either you believe it's true or you don't. That in fact we can have large enough lives and large enough hearts to believe that yes, Black lives matter, and Asian Pacific Islander lives matter, and Latino lives matter, and white lives matter, and gay lives matter, and straight lives matter. It is not in any way a competition, that it can be and both, all of those things. But there is a reality, particularly when we talk about HIV, but not just when we talk about HIV, where there are folks who have access and there are folks who don't. There are folks that are prioritized and there are folks who don't.
There are folks who can live in privilege, and there are folks who don't. And the reality on this planet today is that often that distinction between the haves and the have-nots are driven by race. And calling out that Black Lives Matter is actually about that. But at the same time, it is an understanding that particularly when you talk about HIV, as was a major theme in the opening ceremonies last night, is that HIV has no distinction of person. The virus itself doesn't care. And so the disproportionality of HIV in people of color communities and poor communities in the global South, in Black communities, are driven by things that we do, think, feel, and the way that we act. And so one of the things that we're trying to do is to try to create a more level playing field. And by more level, we mean the lifting of all boats. Now, in the beginning of the Black AIDS Institute, part of our mission was to eliminate the disparities between Black Americans and other racial ethnic groups. We changed that because at one point we kind of did an analysis. So, there are two ways that you can eliminate disparities. One way is that you can improve the lived experience of people who are disadvantaged. The other way is that you can reduce the lived experience of folks who are advantaged. And in some way, that is kind of the political narrative in our country today. Now, a lot of the anger is about people feeling that the lifting up of some of us in some way diminishes others. Now, and we have to reject that. We have to reject that notion. And so we actually remove eliminating disparities from our mission statement because we don't want anyone else to do poorer. That's not our goal. We want everyone to do better, and we want to make sure particularly Black folks are not disadvantaged. And so there are a number of things that are going to happen this week that I think are particularly important. We are going to be talking this week about what's happening around funding around HIV. For the first time, funding on a global scale has taken a dip, and we need to talk about that because we need to talk about who gets impacted when the global fund is not sufficiently funded. We're going to talk this week. We're also going to talk about some of the data around what is left to get to the end of the epidemic. We are embracing the 90-90-90 goals of UNAIDS. The Black AIDS Institute in particular, we are also embracing the 90-90-90 goals. But there's room for thought even in those goals. Because if we achieve the 90-90-90, that means 10% are left out. So who is that 10%? Who are those folks that get left behind if the 90-90-90 goes? It's worth considering. In the U.S. context, where Black Americans represent roughly 10% of the population, are they telling us something? And so we need to kind of pay attention to that. And we're going to be raising that question this week. So if it's okay for 10% to be left behind, who are those 10%? This morning, Linda was talking about the process of getting on the shuttle to get here and how it reminded her of the childhood game of musical chairs, where there are 10 people and 9 chairs. Basically 10% of the folks are not going to get a seat on the shuttle. And so is that the way we're going to deal with the AIDS epidemic? Musical chairs? We're going to scramble and scramble and scramble when the music stops. If you don't have a chair, then you get left behind. And that is a legitimate question for us to kind of think about as we do this work. One of the things that's happening today, one of the presentations that's happening today that's particularly important is the presentation that's going to happen. Rebecca, help me out. Is it 2 o'clock today?
2:30, session room 6.
Okay, 2:30 session room 6. And if you got a copy of Lancet magazine, the current issue of Lancet magazine in your registration packet, there's a story about the impact of mass incarceration of Black men on HIV infection among Black women. Now, and that we've been looking at the impact, that we have been looking at the reality of the HIV among Black women for a long time. and it's been difficult for us to connect the dots and to kind of understand it. And every time we look at it, we discover, well, it's not quite this or not quite that. But this study is actually really important. It's important for a whole host of reasons. Number one, we know that there is a mass incarceration of Black men going on in the United States. We know that. We know that we are having challenges around what's happening among infections among Black women. And this actually study will talk about the connection. And it's not the connection that often we talk about. It's not the narrative that we know is not true around Black men going into prison HIV negative and coming out of prison HIV positive. It's also not the narrative around the down low man. And thank God that we finally have gotten over that false narrative as well. But what it is about is that when you have a mass incarceration of a people, it disrupts families. Now, so the disruption in those families, the removing of men in large numbers from communities has a negative health impact on those communities, particularly around HIV. The second thing that happens is that when these men actually are on treatment in prison, and then they're discharged from prison without access and connection to care and treatment, that we have an environment that while they're incarcerated, we have viral suppression achieved because we have a structure to assure treatment. And then they're released without a connection to a doctor, often without prescriptions, often almost always without a job, sometimes without a home, without the structural support on adherence to medication, and we then have a viral spike that's happening. And so we have wave and viral spikes in our communities. And that, the studies show, is a major driver in what's happening among Black women. One of the reasons why we think that this study is important is because it speaks directly to many of the impacts and many of the issues surrounding our communities and the social determinants of health. This is a case study of the importance and the relationship between social determinants of health and how those determinants of health disproportionately impact Black people. So we think that that is a really, really important study. We encourage you all to go to that study today. We will be writing about that study in our Black AIDS Daily that will come out later on today and tomorrow. We'll be talking about that as well. There are a number of other things that are going to happen this week. Looking at, for example, the disproportionate impact of HIV and AIDS among young Black men who have sex with men, which is an important population. There's some studies that are going to be presented this week also on aging and the new infections among older folks and what's happening there. There's going to be some studies that are going to be presented this week on youth and on countries that have a lower average where the age of those communities are lower and how those are disproportionately impacted. Many of those countries with the lower average age are in the global south. There's a large percentage of those countries that are African countries, and so the youth impact is important. One of the things that I took away from the really important message that happened, that Olive and Chris Baer talked about yesterday around the LGBT community to stand with Black women, and then Olive reciprocating by saying to women that to stand with the LGBT community, that we are one community and we are stronger together when we do this fight. But it also struck me in a context around Black communities that we are truly one community. Because when you look at the impact on the AIDS epidemic among women, it is a Black disease. When you look at the AIDS impact among men who have sex with men, it is a Black disease. When you look at the AIDS epidemic by any measure, what you find out that Black folks are disproportionately impacted. So in our context, it is extremely important that we understand and we connect the dots, that we understand the leakages between the various subpopulations in this epidemic. And that's a major part of the issue that we are moving forward with our athletics. So with that, I actually want to open it up again to find out where people are. So on the conference, even though last night was the opening of the conference, this is going to be the first plenary. A lot of us have been here waiting for you, John, to arrive. I know you just got here yesterday, but the rest of us have been here holding down the fort for your arrival, and find out what experiences you've had in Durban so far, what you're looking forward to, and how we can move this narrative forward. So why don't we open it up and see what your thoughts are? Yes.
I wanted to share something. I went to a workshop yesterday, and
I'm going to ask you to come up because we are live streaming, and come up so that the folks back in the States can see that beautiful outfit and your beautiful face.
Good morning. My name is Sylvia. I'm from San Leandro, California, Bay Area. I came in on Thursday the 14th and stopped off in Cape Town for my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Now legal to drink.
And then came here on Sunday. But yesterday I went to the Global Village and spent a lot of time there. But I went to a networking, women's network zone, and there was a meeting going on about, it just did research and study. There's a toolkit that just about women in Uganda who were illegally sterilized. And they had video, and they have a toolkit. I have to look at my phone, I can show it to you, on what to look for, how they're trying to combat that. Do you have a toolkit? Yep, it is. And it was just very interesting to see when we talk about Black Lives Matter. That was a prime example of, women who they have surgery or go to the doctor for one thing and find out down the line that they were actually illegally sterilized. And then when they reported, the people that performed that, or the doctors, whoever was responsible, then they get threatened on top of that for exposing them. So I just thought that was interesting. Besides the workshop I went to, also on that talked to the sex workers. And they did skits and dressed up, and they had mothers who talked about how this is how they feed their children, and it was just very interesting. So I just want to share that.
Yes.
I think the conversation.
What's your name and where you're from?
My name is Brian Jones. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. And I guess I got here the other day, and I have a lot of conversations with people, and specifically people who live in different parts, various parts of Africa, where being gay or part of the LGBT community is illegal or against the law. So I also engaged an infectious disease doctor in terms of them getting true statistical data when it comes to men who have sex with men, how people might have contracted the virus and that kind of thing. Where most people, since it's illegal, will not admit. And even in the U.S., compared to that in the U.S., you still have people who may be same gender lovers or may have sex with men, but when it comes to actually getting how they contracted the virus, they still may not openly say that they got into contact with men. And I was just looking at the parallels of even in a place where it's legal to be openly gay or be same gender loving, but people still are not willing to admit that that's how they might have contracted the virus. And also in a place where where it's illegal to be same gender loving. Also, a lot of people that I engaged that were from Africa seem to, from my perspective, seem to not be facing the fact that these people, it seemed like they wanted to put a lot of the blame on the women in terms of how it contracted and that kind of thing. And they weren't being realistic about men having sex with men and that's how they contracted the virus. And not much emphasis was being put on that. It was we put on women and maybe sex workers. They seem to put most of the blame on how it's being contracted on sex workers. And to me, to do that portion about men are having sex with men, I don't care where you are. Not saying that's carrying the brunt of the virus, but you can't just take one piece out of the puzzle and say, this is what's causing it, when they all are interconnected.
I think that's important. I think that looking at the whole picture is critically important, and looking at the interrelationship with all the communities that are at risk is critically important. That's one of the things that we should look at this week as well. Any other comments?
So I kind of feel like when the young lady, stated that women are embracing and should embrace the LGBT community, I think that's great, and it should be a collaborative effort. But I wouldn't want that be to be an entry point which funding streams are clumping the Black women with that community, with the LGBT community as the progress move forward in the virus. Meaning that our Black women or women of color will be made less than, so to speak, not giving them their own front line. Women that I know working in the community, they may oppose that. And that's just a point, maybe I'm just going a little much with it, but I think that's taken away from the women and get to have their own stance, as time progresses on down the road.
I think that what Olive meant and what Chris meant was not that there's not value in targeting different communities and developing specific communities. I think that the point that they're attempting to make is that it doesn't have to be a proposition, that it doesn't have to be a competition, and that to make sure that one community gets the resources that it needs should not be a paradigm to suggest that another community does not. I think that that's the argument that they're trying to make on that. And what that requires is all of us to be committed that the entire epidemic is fairly resourced, adequately resourced, so that we're not having those battles. The truth of the matter is there are places in the world, there are populations in the world where we've had progress, and we've seen some of that progress, lost because we've taken our eyes off the prize. We had essentially eliminated vertical transmission in the United States, and yet there are states in the South in the United States where we now see an uprise and uptake in babies being born HIV positive. There's no reason for that to happen, and it's only happening because we're taking our eyes off the prize. And so making sure that we focus on all of those communities. So it's not about necessarily blending the kind of work we need to do in the LGBT space and the kind of work we need to do in the women's space, to make sure that we don't allow ourselves to have a divide and conquer attitude in that regard. One of the most important things I think happening this week around the Black Lives Matter is actually our responsibility. That part of embracing the concept of Black Lives Matter is our responsibility to make sure that people in our communities, whether they're able to be here this week or not, whether they're able to be exposed to our live streaming or not, whether or not they're able to have access to our daily newsletter or not, so they get the information they need. And so there's a challenge to each and every one of us to make sure that we maximize this week, that we get as much information as we can this week, and that we do everything we can to take that information back to our local communities. And that's the challenge. So, we're not apologizing for starting at 7 o'clock in the morning. We want you to be awake. We want to make sure that you make the opening plenary every morning. We want to make sure that you have the resources you need to understand what's going on in sessions. Every morning we're going to look at key sessions from the previous day. We're going to provide a preview of what's going to happen that day, and we're going to have a conversation of what are the important messages of the day in preparation. I'm going to turn it back over to Erica, who's going to talk about the rest of the programs. She's going to talk about the rest of the week. And are you going to talk about the post-conference updates as well today?
Sure. Okay.
There you go. Thank you.
Well, let me start where Phil left off, and then I'll work backwards. So we will be doing post-conference updates. So we want to take all of this knowledge back to Black communities in the U.S. So we have 12 cities in the U.S. that we will be holding updates for, and we'd really love if you are in any of those cities that you come join us, that you consider speaking. Rebecca and I will be working on putting together a whole toolkit so that the implementation is actually pretty streamlined. We'll be joining one of the two of us, or two of our other staff members will be joining each of those locations to implement the updates. But we'd really love to have more voices and encourage you to invite all of your works to join. I can briefly go over the cities in case you want to prior. The first one we will be holding on August 5th. That will be in Los Angeles. And then the rest are between August and December. I don't have all of the dates in my mind, but they are Baltimore, DC, Charlotte, North Carolina, Atlanta, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Melbourne, Florida, Jackson, Mississippi, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Chicago, Illinois, and we'll finish out with the Bay Area in California. We are missing Ohio, but we're hoping actually in the future to have, we've laid some groundwork for a chapter in Cincinnati, and we're excited about some work there. If you can join us in Chicago, that would be fantastic. We're considering, and it's not official yet, but we're considering adding actually a Detroit stop, which is fairly close as well. So we'll be doing those updates until December. And so definitely, if you are interested in attending any of them, check our website, blackaids.org. And on blackaids.org, you can also sign up if you haven't already for the Black AIDS Weekly, which is our weekly newsletter. This week, throughout this week of the conference, we're actually doing it on a daily basis. So usually it's a weekly newsletter. This week, we're doing a Black AIDS Daily in order to just disseminate all of the wonderful information that we're getting here at the conference. So I would highly encourage you to sign up for the Black AIDS Weekly or the Daily, as it will be for next week. And that will also have lots of information on all of the dates for the upcoming updates. Most of them have confirmed dates, so even if you were to sign on now, you can see when they are and even register online for all of those updates. But like I said, if you could share that with your networks, that would be fantastic. And if you're interested in speaking at any of those, please come talk to me or talk to Rebecca about that. So to go back, it's a little bit from what Phil was saying, we do want to look at the roadmap. So Rebecca did a fantastic job in laying out a roadmap, and that's actually in your folders in the booklet. It's page 11. It's the page that looks like this.
So for the roadmap, basically, there are, as you probably know, a lot of sessions in your book list that you got from the conference. And so obviously it's impossible to attend all of the interesting sessions that are going to be available for you all. And so what we do every year is that we partner with the African Black Diaspora Global Network and develop a roadmap that is pertinent to Black folks. And so there's a number of sessions that are address Black issues for Black Americans, Black issues for various African countries as well. And then there's also important sessions in there for biomedical interventions, important faith sessions in the roadmap, important sessions on key populations, so MSM, sex workers, women, trans women, etc. And so we basically sifted through all of the sessions so that you wouldn't have to do that, and developed a comprehensive roadmap. And so we have that available for you, and you can kind of pick and choose which ones you want to attend for that. And obviously there might be some sessions that are not on our roadmap that you may be interested in, but I think this will be a helpful tool to navigate the conference.
So like Phil had mentioned earlier, there is one session that is not included in our roadmap that will be happening today, and that's on HIV and mass incarceration, and that's happening at 2:30 in session room 6. So again, that's 2:30 at session room 6, and we would really love everyone that's part of our delegation or part of the Black AIDS Institute sphere to come to that session, like Phil was mentioning earlier. So that's not in the roadmap, but again, 2:30 at session room 6. That would be fantastic. If you are part of our delegation officially, you want to take a look at your smaller packet, because all of your assignments are in the smaller packet. So if you have any questions and you're part of the delegation and want to ask me about what that means, all of those assignments are there. So just for the rest of the week, we will be doing updates for all of the days at 7 o'clock. So we'll work with the hotel staff to make sure that we're starting promptly at 7. We will have breakfast available for 7 o'clock for all of the rest of the days of the conference. And like Phil mentioned, each of the days we're going to be kind of looking at the sessions that were in the roadmap from the previous day and giving an overview, because it's impossible to go to all of them, so that everyone can share content and we can have some discourse around what we're learning collectively throughout the conference. And then also previewing the sessions that will be happening that day that are included in the roadmap.
And also for the rest of the week, we kind of tried to group the updates into themes. So for tomorrow, there will be our breakfast update will focus on faith. So basically all of the faith sessions that have happened thus far, we'll be doing a review on that. Thursday, we will be doing a review on kind of the new biomedical medications that are coming out and prevention tools that are coming out. And then Friday, we're going to have a discussion on key population. And so we're going to basically try to do a review of the pertinent sessions that have to do with the key populations that I mentioned earlier. And then we also have 2 special speakers in this week. So tomorrow we will be having Congresswoman Barbara Lee from California District 9. So you definitely want to be there for that. And then on Friday, we have Dr. Deborah Burks, who is the Global AIDS Coordinator, PEPFAR, speaking Friday morning. So definitely want to be there for that as well. So I think that's up the rest of them.
Just all of that is captured on page 9, except for the speakers, because they were late additions, but we are really excited about those speakers. So if you want to just check out those themes or anything, that is on page 9 as well.
And as you go through the conference today, please feel free to invite other folks to join us. These breakfast sessions are open, they're free, and we really want to make sure, particularly that Congresswoman Barbara Lee has a warm welcome, and it is a rare opportunity that you get to speak with Ambassador Burke in such a small, intimate setting. And so don't miss the opportunity to, particularly those 2 sessions with Congresswoman Barbara Lee in an intimate setting. That's a unique opportunity. And Ambassador Burke as well on Fridays. To have a chance to spend quality time with her is important as well.
So I have one final housekeeping item. If you did not sign in, and I think I got everyone, but if you did not sign in, please make sure you sign in. We just need to keep really good track for the breakfast. And just also, if you did not receive a t-shirt, we have some t-shirts left. And so I don't know if we have enough for everyone, but there are t-shirts available and we are wearing them today, especially to that 2:30 session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, just an observation. I noticed that the fees weighs heavily on Black Americans. I'm not a district member, but I'm a Black man from Africa, Malawi, and I find that what you're doing is really interesting. I think we can always see age weight. Just sit in the board of the research institution. This is the second time I'm attending a conference. I hope that I'll be welcome, or continue to welcome in this session.
Absolutely, and this is a good point. We are from the U.S. and the Institute is based in the U.S., but we think that it's really important that we have allies all across the globe and that we connect with people, both in a social and informal way, but also professionally. So definitely you're welcome. You're welcome to bring, anyone else that you think might benefit from these discussions.
So I had one more, but it was during the deal. He stepped out and the whole group up. Maybe I'll say before I'm done.
Okay. Okay, thank you. See you tomorrow.